it appears that President Trump's defense on Ukrainian quid pro quo continues to fall apart. Now, there is new key testimony involving one of Rudy Giuliani's henchmen in Ukraine. So this was Lev Parnas, right? Now, Lev Parnas is, again, one of the guys who worked with Rudy Giuliani in Ukraine to try to do this pressure campaign on behalf of President Trump. Parnas was also a gigantic Trump donor who was arrested earlier in October. So now, Parnas reportedly said that he had told incoming Ukrainian leadership earlier this year to announce an investigation into the Biden family and Burisma in exchange for U.S. military aid. Now, Lev Parnas, not part of the government. What is he doing? Doing State Department business. What is Rudy Giuliani doing State Department business? Very interesting questions, right? So now, problematic, obviously, quid pro quo. So now, according to the New York Times report, Parnas allegedly traveled to Kiev just before Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was inaugurated back in May and told the incoming government to announce an investigation into President Donald Trump's political rival, Joe Biden. Otherwise, he says the U.S. would freeze military aid to the country, about $400 million. Now, the Ukrainian American businessman attorneys, Joseph A. Bondi, told the New York Times in a report. So now, this is, look, that's his lawyer, right? So the guy who's representing Parnas is saying, oh yeah, total quid pro quo. Oops. Now, also contingent on the investigation announcement, reportedly was Vice President Mike Pence's attendance at a Zelensky inauguration ceremony, according to Bondi. Now, Pence never showed up, and we had went into that story previously about why he was told not to show up as part of that pressure campaign. So, now this is interesting, right? Because Parnas was deeply tied to Rudy Giuliani, as well as, of course, you can see that picture with him standing next to Donald Trump. Keep that in mind, right? So now, again, Giuliani, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, right, and somebody who's trying to get inroads with the Ukrainian government. Now, Giuliani, Parnas, and Fruman were all trying to deal with Ukraine. Parnas and Fruman, of course, were trying to get Ukrainian gas deals. So now, Parnas had retained Giuliani at about $500,000 through his company, Fraud Guarantee. Hilarious name for a company that's supposed to, of course, try to fight back against like computer fraud or identity theft, right? Fraud Guarantee. Yeah, I mean, come on. I don't think I have to get into that any further. But again, this was one of the companies Fruman and Parnas had worked together on. Parnas, of course, also tried to get a gas had a gas company that was trying to get Ukraine to buy gas, natural gas. So now, all of that was happening while they were working with Giuliani in order to set up a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky so that Trump, of course, could get Ukraine to investigate the Bidens as well as, at first, CrowdStrike. So now, CrowdStrike, of course, it's an American company that was involved with investigating Russia. There's this conspiracy theory about CrowdStrike actually being a Ukrainian company and having some secret server in Ukraine where they have like 33,000 emails and proof that it was Hillary Clinton that was actually doing the collusion with Russia and Ukraine. It's in this, like I said, this crazy conspiracy theory with little to no facts around it, right? So Trump says, because he believes in every conspiracy that he comes across, goes, well, investigate. I want to find the server. I want to find the server, and also I want you to look into Burisma. And now, of course, they're talking about Burisma, in which there is corruption going on, no doubt. Corruption that doesn't seem to involve any Ukrainians. But look, if you're getting paid $50,000 a month to sit on the board and you don't know anything about gas, that is institutional corruption, because we all know He was only there. He was only put on that board because he is a Biden. And that's fair. Now, what's not fair is pointing that out when your dad's name is Donald Trump. And that's what Donald Trump Jr. And all the Trump kids are basically harping on right now. So, a little bit of hypocrisy, even though there is corruption indeed in sitting on that board and getting paid all this money to do so when you don't know a damn thing about gas. So, now, the thing is, right? So now this admission from Parnas's lawyer, Mr. Bondi, Mr. Bondi, sorry, had to. Look, we already kind of knew this. We already kind of figured this out. But this is basically him saying, yes, quid pro quo, quid pro quo. But also it shows that we got another person that flipped on Giuliani and, of course, Donald Trump. Now, what's interesting is why. First, before I get to that, the Times did note that the warning to Ukrainian leadership was allegedly at the direction of Giuliani, whom Bondi said Parnas believed to be acting under Trump's instruction. So even Parnas is like, yeah, Giuliani, and we were given that warning, Giuliani, and of course ordered by Donald Trump. So now Parnas gets arrested, right? Right before he gets on a plane, a one-way ticket out of the country, because that's what innocent people do, right? And I remember reporting on that story. So he gets arrested, and for a while, he basically ignored subpoenas. No, I'm not gonna go testify. I don't have anything to say to the federal investigators. I don't have anything to say on impeachment. I'm not going to rat anybody out. Well, now what changed? What changed? And apparently, he reconsidered after Trump denied to reporters that he knew Parnas. Now remember, Parnas, big Trump supporter, he gave a lot of money to Donald Trump. In fact, remember, he is charged with creating a shell corporation in order to make straw donations to a pro-Trump election committee. So his crimes were to the benefit of Donald Trump, and yet Trump, he says, I don't know this guy. That's literally a picture of Trump and Parnas together. Don't even know him. Under the bus he goes. I mean, but here's the thing. So to Parnas, he says, well, I'm sure he thinks this is a grand betrayal. Well, you're going to betray me, then I'm going to betray you. I'm going to go and I'm going to say, look, this is a reality of what's going on. I did know Donald Trump, and I worked with Giuliani, and there was definite quid pro quo. That's what he's expected to testify. So, in front of House impeachment, the House Impeachment Committee. So, congratulations, right? But here's the thing: this is how Donald Trump operates, right? Once people around him get in trouble for doing criminal things on his behalf, sometimes under his orders, he denies the knowledge. What? No, I don't know them. It was their fault. He's just a coffee boy. Under the bus, like I said. But what Trump fails to understand is that the underside of that bus is now filled to the brim with people who know things that will damage Donald Trump. And even his allies, like I said, that are still with him, and who knows for how long, right? They're also under investigation. You have Giuliani under investigation over allegations of illegally engaging in foreign lobbying efforts without disclosure. Remember, that's the thing that Manafort went to prison for, right? So you got investigations everywhere. You got key figures coming out from underneath that bus to offer their testimony. And I think that's got to be making Trump and Giuliani incredibly nervous. It has to, which is why I think Donald Trump is counting in the sycophants that he still has in Congress. But look, he keeps losing his allies. Why is that? Because he keeps stabbing them in the back. At some point, he's going to run out of friends. And in politics, if you're facing as many investigations as Donald Trump and an impeachment inquiry, which, by the way, it's a political trial. It's not a criminal, but it's a political process. if you don't have any friends in this political process, well, you might as well cut your political career over. See, and here's the thing, right? So, what it's coming down to, because Donald Trump is so popular among members of Congress, you're going to see these politicians, and they're probably already doing so. They're gonna run the numbers, right? They're going to run the numbers on this impeachment inquiry, and if the numbers start to turn, for example, number of Republicans that are pro-Trump, and right now we have 62% of Republicans that think, I don't care what Donald Trump does, there is nothing that could sway me. That is the cult, right? So as long as those numbers hold, and those people are represented by Republicans in Congress, in the Senate specifically, then that number's not going to turn. Then those Republican congressmen are not going to turn, right? However, if the numbers, for example, of impeachment, people who would support Donald Trump getting impeached and removed, which currently stands at about 50 to 51%, that number rises higher to 60%, to 75%. There is a chance that even these craven Republicans who already don't like Donald Trump might get coerced. Coerced is probably a bad word. Might be convinced that it's in their best political interest in order to turn on Donald Trump and drop him like a hot potato. Again, these are the numbers that Republicans are looking at. And these are the numbers that I think everyone should look at when you talk about and when you look at the impeachment proceedings. Again, it's not about punishing someone for criminal acts, which I think Donald Trump is guilty of quite a few of. It's holding them accountable and also achieving the end result of removing President Trump for supposed high crimes and misdemeanors. So we'll have to see what happens on this and what the numbers ultimately are as these impeachment hearings become public, and they are. So watch out for that. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.